So we're going to start by talking about what the news is, and as a kind of a precursor to our work throughout the year. News is a great place to start off, again, because it's the basic of any story. It's the who, what, where, when, and how, and you need those building blocks for whatever type of story you're doing, whether it's a video, a fiction story, nonfiction profile pieces, all of those, or even a review or a preview. It all falls under those categories of answering those basic questions. And that's really what the news is. It's quick information, getting it out to people in a factual basis. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that is. All right, so the news is, for the most part, anything that will make people talk. That's the basic one. All right, it's usually informative and it's interesting. So whatever interests the reader is kind of news, and that's why we get kind of caught up in our tabloids. And it is news in a way, but it's not hard-hitting factual news. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Can something be news even if it's not important? I don't know. Can it? For some people, yes, I would say so. You know, what Kim Kardashian is wearing from one day to the next could be news for someone, as long as it interests that individual. It's something that they want to hear about. If you know what your audience wants, you cater to the audience. And one more thing. The news is factual, and that's the most important part, is that you're telling the facts of a situation. You're not making things up. And of course, like I said earlier, this is going to change a little bit when you want to start writing fiction or poetry. But for now, one of the most important pieces is that you're looking at things that are factual. So accuracy is one of the most important parts of telling a good, or writing a good piece, or telling a good piece. You want to get your facts right. It's just that simple. You want to make sure you double check your facts and that you are checking for accuracy. So there's a difference between fact and opinion, and a great example is telling the temperature. So in a weather report, we get the facts, something that can be verified, it's measured, or could be proven. So an example is it's 78 degrees out. An opinion would be is that 78 degrees for some people, it's just too hot outside. I'm not one of those people. I love the hot weather. But it's just the idea of the viewpoint. Whether or not someone agrees with you, it becomes an opinion piece. And that's okay. We can also write opinion pieces, and we'll do that later on. But it's really the difference between fact and opinion. So here are some tips for accurate reporting. You want to verify each fact and quote as best as you can. If you doubt about anything, check in with your sources. Again, whoever you're writing about, just check in with them. People really appreciate that. They'd rather see that than a published piece where they were misquoted or something. One of the most important things is to double check spellings of names, as well as grade levels and titles and things like that. You want to refer to official documents listing the information, or get the correct spellings directly from the person that you're interviewing or your source. One of the things that I always encourage students to do is the first question being, could you please spell your name when you interview someone? Make sure that you're asking that they spell your name. Then you can always Google stuff to double check that way, and also make sure you're looking at a calendar, making sure that you have the dates correct. Right? So there's a difference between objective reporting and subjective reporting. Objective reporting is to be fair in news reporting. So you must always report on just what the facts are. And to be quite honest, the more you do that, usually the easier the article is, the more you start getting into your own subjective ideas. You run the risk of not being a reliable source of information. Okay? And I want to stress this again, you can't let your own personal opinion or your feelings about a subject affect what you're reporting on. So objective reporting, again, doesn't refer to what you're testing on or what you have to learn today. All right? Objective means not influenced by personal feelings, interpretations, or prejudice based on facts. Right? And it's unbiased. It's the opposite of subjective. And subjective means placing excessive emphasis on those moods and attitudes and opinions that surround a topic or yourself. All right? So we're looking to be objective as possible in our news gathering information as we can. And if you're doing a subjective, you're not being fair. The difference between objective reporting is when we tell the facts, and then subjective, it becomes the idea of kind of editorializing a story. All right, and when you begin to do that, you can say things like, if you go to a pep rally and say that everyone had a great time, you're editorializing that information. okay? There's always that one person in the stands who just broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend and they're crying in the corner. Or someone's having a bad day. They're not having a good time at the pep rally, so we can't use those generalizations, right? But what you can do, so you prevent editorializing, is just reporting on what you saw and what you heard, not what you think or what you feel, all right? And if you're editorializing, you're not objective reporting, you're not being fair. Again, we do have a place for editorials and opinion pieces. We want those too, but as our first exercise with the news and telling us a good story, we're going to shy away from those until later on in the year. All right? Another part of being objective is that you are balanced in the information that you're getting out to your audience. So, for instance, if you have a two-sided kind of problem where you have a party of people that are on one side and a party of people of other, you want to get interviews from both those groups of people. So you want to create that balance between the two. And you want to make sure that you're covering all sides of an issue. Maybe it's just not two people that are in an argument or debating something. Maybe there's a third person. And so you want to, as many of those resources you can get into an article, the better. All right? And then you want to make sure that your sources are the people that provide the right information. So that means if you want to talk to someone about a new turf field that's being put in, you're going to want to talk to the athletic director. If you say, for instance, if the new turf field is put in and you want to get information about it, you're not going to talk to the new freshman, Joey, who just came in and had his first freshman practice on the field. That might be a piece to it, but you want to get the people who have the most information and go with what you know, right? And being balanced means being fair. It means you cover all those perspectives, and it means that you're being objective. Again, you want to be accurate as possible. Sometimes two sides aren't equal. Maybe you have more facts from one side or the other, but that's what you got to work with, and you got to use your best judgment in order to figure that out. A newspaper can't really congratulate itself on having got at the facts impartially when it has quoted at length from two uninformed idiots on opposing sides of an issue. All right, he's an editor and publisher who said that. So it's the idea that if you're quoting or misquoting the wrong people, you're still not doing the service of getting the information out. Okay? And so, just as a review, the news it's interesting, it's informative, it's factual and accurate, and it's both fair, meaning that it's objective and balanced. Okay? So that is the first video on news, and the next one we're going to look at what news value is. So how does news fall into these different categories?